The book of the Revelation is a book of symbols. Here's the definition of symbol from Google. A symbol is a mark, sign, or word that indicates, signifies, or is understood as representing an idea, object, or relationship. Symbols are used to communicate ideas and concepts in a concise and often universal way. They can be visual, such as the peace sign or the yin-yang symbol, or they can be auditory, such as the sound of a bell or the rhythm of a drum. Symbols can be literal or figurative. Literal symbols represent something concrete, such as a traffic sign that represents a stop. Figurative symbols represent something abstract, such as a dove that represents peace. Symbols can be powerful tools for communication and expression. They can evoke strong emotions and memories, and they can be used to convey complex ideas in a simple way. The book of the Revelation is a book of symbols. Why did John receive this revelation in symbols? Perhaps to communicate the concepts of the revelation of Jesus Christ in a concise and universal way. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. The idea of Armageddon has long challenged the minds of many. Here's what Google says about different interpretations. Several interpretations exist, but there are two main ones. Literal interpretation. This view sees Armageddon as a specific physical location, the plain of Jezreel near Megiddo, a historically significant battlefield. This interpretation often envisions a literal final battle between the forces of good and evil at this particular spot. Symbolic interpretation. This view understands Armageddon as a symbolic name representing the ultimate conflict between God and evil, not necessarily tied to a specific geographical location. The battle then becomes metaphorical, signifying the triumph of good over darkness on a cosmic scale. I believe Armageddon is a symbolic interpretation based on definition by context. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of demons, performing signs, which go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. Behold, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew, Armageddon. Armageddon is symbolic of the battle of that great day of God Almighty. When we recognize that this day does not represent a literal 12 or 24-hour segment of time, we have a perspective that makes sense. Armageddon is the war or conflict between the spirits of demons and the Spirit of Christ. Note that these three unclean spirits come out of the mouths of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Careful study shows that all three of these entities denote collective forces, not individuals. Regarding the dragon, we read this. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon and his angels fought. Regarding the beast, we read this. When they, the two witnesses, finish their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit will make war against them, overcome them, and kill them. In perfect agreement with Revelation 11:7, we read this: "It was granted to him, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. As for the false prophet, then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These 2 were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. 3 unclean spirits in the 6th dole. 3 denotes a complete witness, while 6 is the number denoting man's enmity with his Maker. This brings us to the following: For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be." Here, my friend, is Armageddon. It is a battle between the carnal mind and the spiritual mind, an inward battle, not an outward conflict, although carnality is certainly manifested externally in the human arena. But again, and I emphasize, it is first an inward battle, for what transpires in the mind is what leads to the conflicts between ourselves and others. And what are the 3 unclean spirits? Perhaps John explains them in the following: "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, and the desires of the eyes, and pride in possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever." Here, John sums up all that is in the world as the desires of the flesh, and the desires of the eyes, and pride in possessions. It is this 3rd element of pride which corrupts the desires of the flesh and eyes. This is Armageddon, the war within. It is my opinion that the following passages also address Armageddon. "Now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. They, the nations, went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them." What do we read? They, that is the nations, went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city. If literal, this makes no sense at all. However, the reality is this: the carnal influence of all the nations surrounds us at all times, challenging our hearts and minds and the principles of God's kingdom. Note the reference to gather them together to battle. This correlates with Revelation 16:14, where we read, "For they are spirits of demons, performing signs, which go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty." As for the fire that comes down from God out of heaven and devours the nations, this correlates with Revelation 19:20 and 20:10, where the beast, the false prophet, and the devil or dragon are all cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. This is the fire that devours the nations.